What's up, everyone? Today is May 22nd, 2023. In today's video, we're going to talk a little bit about the NBA and the upcoming NBA Finals, slated to start on June 1st next week. One of the top stories in the news today is that future NBA Hall of Famer Carmelo Anthony has announced his retirement after 19 seasons in the league. Curiously, Carmelo Anthony started his career, his first 8 seasons, with the Denver Nuggets. Currently, the Denver Nuggets are playing the Los Angeles Lakers in the Western Conference Finals. And as you see here, Carmelo's last team that he played with in the NBA was the Los Angeles Lakers. Now, this is the type of thing that most fans don't realize is happening every single year. Players retiring, moving in connection with current events in the NBA. We're also going to touch on a couple other stories about basketball in this video, particularly the story about Brittany Greiner returning to the WNBA, as her return to the Phoenix Mercury occurred in Los Angeles against the Sparks, which is the same city that, again, Carmelo Anthony finished his career in. Now, on this channel, we talk a lot about the language of Gematria as a key component of numerology. And when you review this language and compare it to dates on the calendar, you realize that indeed something very strange is happening. Gematria is a very simple practice. We start with the alphabetic order, where each letter is numbered 1 through 26 relative to its position in the alphabet. This also brings us to the base 4 ciphers, where the alphabetic order is either reversed or reduced to yield new but related numbers. So let's get started. First of all, Carmelo Anthony played for several NBA teams during his career, and you'll notice that the most common number he used was number 7, which he wore for 4 different teams in the NBA. Of course, 7 is the 4th prime number. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Using the reverse reduction method of Gematria, the name Carmelo Anthony equals 70. Now, in numerology, the 0 is ignored, so this represents the number 7, which is the same number he wore on his jersey for most of his career. Anthony started his career in Denver, Colorado, which sums to 70 in reduction. The Denver Nuggets are currently led by 2-time NBA MVP Nikola Jokic, whose name also sums to 70. Today's date when we got this news, May 22nd, 5 plus 22 plus 20 plus 23, gives us a sum of 70. So indeed, it's no coincidence that Anthony's retirement is announced on this date. Today also has numerology of 34, and when you write out the number 70 in Gematria, notice how you also get this value of 34, just like the name Anthony. But what really stands out here is this value of 79, which is the reverse sum of the word 70 when spelled out. Carmelo Anthony's full name is Carmelo Anthony. In Gematria, this also sums to 79 in the reduction method. And we're going to talk about how this is also connected to Carmelo's last teammate, LeBron James. Of course, the man who has scored more points than anyone in the history of the NBA, and certainly a central figure to many things that have to do with numerology in the NBA. Well, Carmelo Anthony and LeBron James, both finishing their career with the LA Lakers, which has an ordinal value of 79. LeBron James's full name, LeBron Raymond James, also has this 79 in reduction. And if you measure from today's news story to LeBron's next birthday, you find it's a span of 7 months and 9 days. What makes this particularly curious is that The Nuggets are very likely to go to the NBA Finals with a 3-0 lead over the Lakers. The team that they're most likely to play against in the finals is the Miami Heat. And notice how Miami Heat also has this 79 value. In fact, Miami Heat 164 in reverse. That's the ordinal value of Carmelo Anthony. Now, what I found really strange is that last year, the Miami Heat drafted only one player in the NBA draft. And curiously enough, that player was named Nikola Jovic, which is just one letter off of Nikola Jokic, who the Heat will probably be playing against in the finals. Now, this is a pretty common name in Serbia, but the fact that it's just one letter off of the Nuggets' current MVP, pretty interesting nonetheless. Let's talk about the number in the headline. Carmelo Anthony played 19 seasons in the NBA. Now, he did not play at all this past season, which would have been his 20th. So we'll focus on the 19. And of course, he finished his career in Los Angeles. Using the alphabetic order, Los Angeles sums to 109, which of course represents the number 19. In that same ordinal method, the name Carmelo equals 67. And 67 is what we call a prime number, divisible only by 1 and itself. And 67 is the 19th prime number. Don't forget, we just had the end of COVID-19, a disease with 19 in it, and COVID-19 also summing to 67. But the number 19 has another interesting property. In a cipher called Latin, which is based on Agrippa's key, taken from ancient Masonic texts in the 16th and 17th centuries, I consider this to be the most significant cipher outside of the base methods in Gematria. Notice how the number 19 over here sums to 244. 244 is the same value in this cipher as the word satanic. Satanic also summing to 244. And what really makes this interesting is that when you search for 666 in the string of pi, we find that the digits 666 first appear in pi at the 2,440th decimal digit. This, of course, represents the number 244. Just like how satanic, the satanic number 666, showing up in connection in pi. Don't forget mathematics of the circle gives us this 666, just like mathematical perfection. And we're going to spend the next part of this post talking about the number 666 and how this is coded in many ways here in the story. We start with Carmelo Anthony's age on today's date. On the date he announced his retirement, Carmelo Anthony is a span of exactly 2,034 weeks old. This is a number connected to 666 because if you add the digits 234 to its inverse, 432, you get this sum of 666. In the book of Revelation, 666 is known as the number of the beast. And if you look at the book of Revelation, you'll find that the four beasts are first described in Revelation 4:7. And this is, of course, no coincidence. The fourth prime number is 7. The Denver Nuggets are currently in their 47th season in the history of their franchise. Carmelo Anthony played his final game last year in 2022. And what's interesting about this is that he was last on the active roster on the date 4/7, April 7th. Although he did not play in the game, that was the time he was last on an NBA roster. and it was the year 2022. In a cipher called Satanic Gematria, beast equals 222. So on 4/7 of 2022, Carmelo played his last NBA game. The date April 7th happens to fall 47 days after the birthday of Nikola Jokic, the Serbian superstar for the Denver Nuggets. Not only was he 47 days after his birthday when Carmelo was last on the roster, but Jokic was also 9,909 days old, which is, of course, an upside-down 666. Furthermore, the name Nikola Jokic sums to 47 in reduction. 47 is another prime number. You'll see here that 47 is the 15th prime number. When Carmelo Anthony played for the Denver Nuggets, he wore number 15. Nikola Jokic, the current Nuggets superstar, also wears number 15. The Nuggets could be playing against the Heat, and Heat coach Eric Spoelstra is also in his 15th year this year as a head coach. So a strong 47 link, and we'll talk more about Jokic in a little bit. In Latin Gematria, the phrase the beast has this value of 311. When Carmelo Anthony played in his final NBA game, it was on April 5th, 2 days earlier. That game was 311 days after Carmelo Anthony's birthday. And if you measure from that date to the date he announced his retirement, it was 13 months and 18 days. 1318 is significant because the verse that reveals 666 as the number of the beast is Revelation 13:18. Now, Revelation 13:18 is the 229th verse of the book of Revelation. Notice how the name Carmelo sums to 229. And in these other ciphers, the name Carmelo matches satanic. Many people consider 666 as this satanic number. Of course, that's not something I claim. I think it runs much deeper than that. In a couple other significant forms of gematria, including English Standard, which is built identically to the Latin cipher but uses the current 26-letter English alphabet, notice how the beast has a value of 521 and 136 in reverse. Well, the day before Carmelo retired was 521, and that date fell exactly 136 weeks after LeBron James and the Lakers won the NBA title in 2020. Carmelo Anthony led the Syracuse Orange to the NCAA championship during his college career. Notice how both Syracuse and New York sum to 666 in Sumerian gematria. Sumerian, another cipher that's based on the alphabetic order, but here we multiply every number by 6 prior to adding it to the equation. Carmelo Anthony's championship was won in the year 2003. And of course, this was the same year he was drafted, 2003. Now, Carmelo was drafted just 2 spots after LeBron James, who was also taken in that 2003 draft. On 5/21, yesterday, LeBron James turned exactly 2,003 weeks old. And this is another number connected to 666, because if you divide 2 by 3, you get a product of 0.666 repeating. And look at the numbers that LeBron James has worn throughout his career. 23 and 6. 2 of the numbers connected to all of this. Something else I want to point out is when you measure from the birthdays of LeBron James to Nikola Jokic, Notice how you get exactly 529 weeks? Well, 529 is the 23rd square number. So another 23 in connection with the finals here. Finally, if you multiply 6 times 6 times 6, you get a product of 216. Carmelo Anthony was born on May 29th. This is the date that leaves 216 days on the calendar. Carmelo Anthony was born a span of 216 days before LeBron James. The name Carmelo Anthony equals 216. So does Los Angeles with capital letters. And there's actually a deeper riddle here with 666. If the Nuggets go to Game 7 in the NBA Finals, it'll be the first time that the Finals went to 7 games since the year 2016, like 216, which is when LeBron led the Cleveland Cavaliers to their only NBA championship. So let's bring this all together. Nikola Jokic, the current Nuggets star, has played in a total of 658 games during his career. This means tonight, Game 4 will be his 659th. If the series in the NBA Finals goes to a 7th game, this means that Game 7 will be Nikola Jokic's 666th game in his entire career. Does not seem like a coincidence, does it? So a lot of beast numerology here connected to 666. We see this very commonly. It's a recurring theme of my blog. So who's responsible for all of this bizarre numerology that we see play out in the media and professional sports? A lot of people believe it's secret societies such as Freemasonry. And up next, I want to talk a little bit more about how the city of Denver, Colorado is significantly connected to Freemasonry. One thing worth pointing out is that this year's NBA season is the 77th in the history of the league. In reduction gematria, the Denver Nuggets sums to 77. Now, as we mentioned earlier, the Denver Nuggets are currently in their 47th season in the league. 47, the gematria of both Nikola Jokic and also Nikola Tesla. Now, Nikola Jokic is Serbian, and one of the most famous Serbians, if not the most famous of all time, is Nikola Tesla. Consider how the Freemasonic compass is set to 47 degrees. And the compass is the tool that's, of course, used to draw the circle, which is 47 in reduction gematria. Now, in the city of Denver, at the Denver International Airport, which has long been a source of many conspiracy theories, there's a capsule in the middle of the airport where the Masonic square and compass sits on top of it. And you know what? This is just dawning on me now. The date March 19th, that's written under this symbol. The date March 19th is 319. And this was a number that I noticed kept popping up. Today is 319 days before the anniversary of Carmelo Anthony's final game in the NBA. I'm kind of blanking on this now. There were actually a couple of others. I'll come back to this number 319. I know it's important. I didn't log it in the post, so we'll come back to this. So this is the symbol for the ancient and accepted Scottish rite of Freemasonry. Now notice how ancient and accepted Scottish rite of Freemasonry sums to 1911 in Latin gematria. Well, once again, this is connected to the Serbian Nikola Tesla. Tesla Motors was founded exactly 19 years and 11 months before this year's NBA Finals begins. Notice how ancient accepted Scottish rite of Freemasonry also shares 187 gematria with both Nikola Jokic and Serbia. In Latin, notice how the word Masonic sums to 223, much like how we are currently in the year 2023. In that same method, the NBA Finals equals 322. Denver Nuggets equals 1223 in standard gematria. The name Jokic equals 223 in satanic. This year's NBA Finals begins 2002 months and 23 days after the birth of Nikola Tesla. So a lot of 223 as we're accustomed to seeing this year. The highest degree of Masonry is believed to be the 33rd degree. Denver's team is named the Nuggets. Notice how Nuggets equals 33. 33 is also the sum of both Jokic and Tesla in that same cipher. And check out how the city of Denver is coded with the numbers of Masonry. Denver sits just north of the 39th parallel and is situated right on the 105th western meridian. In Gematria, the word masonry equals both 39 and 105. In reduction, masonry also equals 33, just like nuggets. In Latin reduction, both Denver and Colorado equals 33, and Denver is home to the 303 area code. So for those of you who are wondering why a Masonic capstone sits at the Denver airport, there's your answer. It has to do with geomancy, gematria. I also thought it was interesting that Nuggets has matching gematria with Saturn. So does Denver Nuggets. And the coach of the Denver Nuggets is Michael Malone. If you measure from Michael Malone's birthday to the Game 1 of the NBA Finals, he'll be 18,888 days old, reminding us that Saturn is an average of 888 million miles from the sun. Saturn also shares 119 gematria with Nuggets. 119 is the ordinal value of Nikola Tesla, and Nikola Jokic will be 119 days after his birthday if the NBA Finals reaches Game 7, which I believe it will. So the NBA Finals, beginning on June 1st, with a potential Game 7 on June 18th. Now let's talk a little bit more about why I think this year's NBA Finals is likely to go the distance. First of all, we have two teams that are just dominating the conference finals. I think it was said last night that never before have two teams swept the conference finals, and that could happen this year, the way things are going. But to explain a little bit more about this, I want to talk about Brittany Greiner's return to the WNBA just this past weekend. Now, back in December, I did a post and a video on the release of Brittany Greiner back to the USA. And this was a tremendous post, if I might say so myself. And it had all to do with the number 42. Brittany Greiner was returned to the USA on the 42nd anniversary of the death of John Lennon. John Lennon died when he was exactly 40 years and 2 months old. Greiner's release was also exactly 42 weeks after she was arrested in Russia, which equals 42. And Greiner wears number 42 for her team. Her release was also 42 days after Paul Pelosi was attacked by a hammer. And on the same day that Brittany Greiner came back, Pelosi's wife, Nancy Pelosi, signed the Respect for Gay Marriage Act. And of course, gay marriage, very relevant to the WNBA, as almost everyone in the WNBA is a lesbian. On that same day, in order to get Brittany Greiner back, the U.S. had to release a convicted arms dealer. Notice how arms dealer equals 42. And that arms dealer went back to the USSR, which is why we talked about John Lennon, because John Lennon wrote the song Back in the USSR, which was the first song on the White Album, which also equals 42. Now, Brittany Griner's birthday is the 18th of October, which represents the digits 181. The name Greiner equals 181. And 181, the 42nd prime number. So Brittany Greiner was released back to the U.S. thanks to Joe Biden. Now, Joe Biden was born in the year 42. And when Greiner played her first game back in the WNBA, Joe Biden was 4,200 weeks old and 181 days after his birthday. Brittany Greiner plays for the Phoenix Mercury. Now, that's a pretty interesting fact. When Brittany Greiner was returned to the USA, it was in exchange for a man named Victor Bout. Victor Bout has a nickname, the Merchant of Death. The word merchant has the same root as Mercury. In ancient Roman mythology, Mercury is the god of merchants. So I guess we're supposed to believe that this is a coincidence that Brittany Greiner plays for the Mercury. Brittany Greiner made her return against the Los Angeles Sparks, who play at the Crypto.com arena. Crypto.com. Think about how crypto is used for financial gain and commerce. Mercury is also the god of financial gain and commerce. Notice how the name Brittany Greiner has matching gematria with Phoenix Mercury, including the number 86. The planet Mercury also equals 86. Victor Bout was born 8 years and 60 days before the current head coach of the Phoenix Mercury, Vanessa Nygaard. Mercury also has gematria of 103. That's the 27th prime number, and this is the WNBA's 27th season. Mercury also has gematria of 205 and 618. And Brittany Greiner made her return on the 20th of May, or 20/5. She had 6 rebounds and 18 points. 618, just like Mercury. Speaking about Mercury, the Denver Nuggets current head coach is Michael Malone. And Michael Malone is a Virgo, which is ruled by the planet Mercury. Carmelo Anthony, who just announced his retirement today, is a Gemini, which is the other sign on the zodiac, ruled by the planet Mercury. So look at this. Mercury equals 618. Brittany Greiner with 6 rebounds and 18 points. Is this perhaps pointing to the NBA Finals ending on 618? Seems like it could very well be the case. Brittany Griner's return to the WNBA was 151 days before her birthday. And a big focus in the media was Griner's coach, Vanessa Nygaard. She was quoted as asking, how it couldn't be a sellout. She was all shocked. Well, notice how the name Vanessa Nygaard equals 151 and 1510. 151 is also the value of Denver, Colorado, not Denver Nuggets. So perhaps there's a strong connection there. There was a lot I pointed out about this story with Brittany Greiner. I'm not going to talk about all of it in this video, but this coach's age synced up alarmingly well with the date. The date was 5/20, like 52. Vanessa Nygaard equals 52. Her team was playing in California, which equals 52. But another big Mercury riddle with Brittany Greiner, which I probably should have mentioned earlier. The planet Mercury takes 88 days to orbit the sun. You'll see it's 87.97. So it's about 1 hour short of 88 days. Now, 88 is a significant number to Mercury. Think about how the magic square of Mercury is an 8 by 8 grid. In fact, it even starts with the number 8 in the top left corner. When Brittany Greiner was arrested in Russia, it was for sneaking marijuana into the country. And notice how marijuana has a gematria value of 88. Well, the 88th prime number is 457. And if you measure from the date she was arrested in Russia to the date that she returned to the WNBA, it was 457 days. So I think that about covers it. Of course, it's no wild prediction to say that the Nuggets and Heat will be playing in the finals, but I just wanted to talk a little bit about why I think the series is likely to go to 7 games this year. And it's all wrapped up in this clue about Carmelo Anthony announcing his retirement on today's date. All right, everyone. Thanks for jumping in. Whether you're watching live or archived, please feel free to like, share, subscribe, whatever you can do to help the channel. Or if you really like the work, please feel free to join. In the description below, there's a link to the membership section of Gematrinator.com, which both supports my work and gives you additional tools to the calculator and date calculator on Gematrinator.com. All right, everyone. Peace, love, God bless, and we'll talk to you next time. See ya.